Hello and welcome to season 4 of the Extraordinary Leaders podcast. Now, to kickstart this season off, I want to define what I mean by extraordinary leaders. So when I say the word ordinary, I don't mean run-of-the-mill, boring, you're ordinary. I mean what is commonplace. What is the regular commonplace things of being a leader, of being a human, of being a parent, of having a career, the commonplace things. So let's just define some commonplace things in our careers. We have profits we've got to hit. We've got big goals and targets we've got to hit. We've got to get buy-in from our team. We've got to develop the people that are working with us. We've got stakeholders that we've got to keep happy. We have to communicate effectively and well to get things over the line. You name it, there's many, many things. And when I say extra and add the extra into, extra means adding into what is commonplace. So what are those extra components you can add into the commonplace of leadership, of parenting, of career that might really enhance our ordinary spaces? Now, I've written a book by this very name, The Extraordinary Leaders book, and it's about borrowing extra from other people's ordinary. I often say that there's a metaphor when you're in a hot tub, if you've ever been in one, or a hot bath, and you're in it a while, you don't know how hot it is until someone else gets in and goes, wow, that's really hot. Well, similarly, when I speak to guests and clients, I see their ordinary with a capital O, their commonplace things. And I will go, wow, that's a really unusual way of doing it from my ordinary. I wouldn't do that, but what a great extra to add into my space. And I love working around with people and borrowing from one another in this great network we have through business, through friendships. And so this podcast is all about accessing and sourcing other people's ordinary that we can add into our ordinary, which is extra. And you never know, somehow we might just become quite extraordinary. And so with extra and ordinary, it's a podcast that's going to help us do our commonplace things in possibly quite an extraordinary way, a way we haven't considered before. I don't know if any of you have heard of this concept of Johari's window. There's a management tool to help us have a different mindset. And it talks about you don't know what you don't know. And it's so true. We do things, our brains just do things the way we've always done them, and they're very effective and efficient most often. However, we don't know what we don't know. And this podcast, my book, my work is about bringing in the stuff that you might not know, that you could borrow, add in, and find things just become what I like to call shoulders down. Your life can be very tense, cognitively like, there's so much going on. I'm doing it the way I know how to do it. We get very tunnel visioned. And borrowing extras from others can somehow just enlighten us, lighten the mood, and help us have a wider peripheral view to approach our ordinary commonplace spaces and challenges. So that's the vision of the podcast. And what I want it to be is short interviews, half an hour, 40 minutes, is that short? But as a way of taking it on the go with us with really practical, applicable things. I'm going to be interviewing a range of people again and finding their inflection points where they moved from the kind of binary places they were in their leadership journey. In that inflection point comes so that they could go, there's another way. I've learned something. And then we can go into that inflection point with them, see their learnings and see if we can borrow them too. But let me just back up a little bit because I'd love to share an inflection point from my own life and where I found extra in my ordinary and how that really birthed the people performance consultancy, my business, and also the speaking and the podcast that I now do, my mission really. So I was a full-time stay-at-home mum with 4 children. I had a great education. I went to a top London university. I studied English and linguistics. And I married and set up home with 4 children. But I also married a vicar. And a vicar, if you're not sure, is a church leader within the Church of England. And I did that for a good 16 years. And whilst I loved it, it was actually a bit of a square peg round hole situation for me. I found myself learning so much about people. A lot of my friends took the mickey and would say, oh, what, a vicar's wife who just sort of making Victoria sponge cakes at church fetes and judging vegetable growing competitions, etc. And yeah, there was a bit of that, to be sure. But actually, you're on the ground with people who have got really difficult lives most of the time. People who have come out of criminal offences, trying to create a new life, people who have had a lot of abuse, and people who also are trying to change careers and haven't got enough money, to also working with people in senior leadership roles who are really stressed and overwhelmed. That coupled with, I'm from a family business, so I've always had business in my DNA. I used to work in film production for 5 years, so I really love logistics and operations. And all of that came to a head when I realized I actually, deep down, am a pioneer. I want to build something outside of all these service spaces I was in. Servicing, I suppose, people's needs, people's problems. I felt a bit like a therapist at times. And then also having 4 young children, I'm constantly loving it, but servicing that a lot. So I decided 6 years ago to change how I do things. And that meant I had to get out of my ordinary and look at extra things. And that was really hard because people only ever knew me as what I was. They didn't see me as anything different. And that's the thing when we want to change. The stakeholders in our lives aren't the people that go, oh, I see this in you. You could do this. Let me open doors for you. They don't. They may really love you. They may really like you. They may really encourage you. But actually, it has to be an inner journey of, hey, I really want to change how my life looks. And so what I did was I went online and asked Google, what should I do with my skills? It was before ChatGPT came out. That would have been an interesting answer, right? And it came out with I could do coaching. And I thought, okay, but I don't want to be a life coach because then I'm just going to attract all the same sorts of things. I really want to build and I want to make money, and I'm articulate and I understand business. I want to work in business. So I started the journey of navigating into business spaces. And it was really, really hard. I was told to stay in my box. I was told, hey, do you know what, Dolly? You're a great mom. Why don't you want to run a business? Why don't you go and make packed lunch boxes for kids? I bet you'd be good at that. Or create some books for kids. And you get a lot of people in your life telling you what lane to stay in. And you can get offended and get cross and feel like a victim and go, this is impossible. But I just took it all on the chin and went, thanks so much. You've really helped me to find what I don't want to do. I don't want to make packed lunch boxes. I don't want to write children's books. I really want to work with people who are making decisions in business because I really want to help businesses grow and get profit. And I want to get into strategy and I want to understand how to be part of the journey of taking a business from here to here with their people intact. So I went to Henley Business School and studied executive coaching there. And I tooled up. I got lots of skills along the way. But I realized the most amazing thing is that nothing's ever lost. All those years of experiencing people and their problems and their pain made me realize that humans are humans. The narrative's different. So if you're coming out of prison looking for a job, or if you're a top CEO wanting to create more profit, actually 2 humans stand before you with a goal and with blocks along the way and with tunnel vision along the way. And that's been really exciting for me, working in businesses and just seeing that humans, we all share such a commonality of being human, of wanting to go to the next level, no matter where we're at. And something that really saddens me in my year's experience with being a vicar's wife, with the people I've met there and in business as well, is that people flatline. They think they know everything often. They think there's no more to know. And life can get quite grey when it's like that. And so that's where I like to borrow the extra to find the colour, to bring in to those commonplace spaces to help us grow. And I have really experienced that in my own life. I took a really big deep dive into understanding my personality. And I'm not just talking about colour insights and DISC and Myers-Briggs, which I love all of them, by the way, but the deeper psychology underneath it. Not to make it a binary thing, but really understanding, how do I process information well? How do I make decisions? How do I know how to communicate to the external world what's going on internally? One of my favorite quotes, which I've mentioned in other podcasts, is be yourself, comma, more of, comma, with skill. Let me say it again. Be yourself, more of, with skill. And something that I learned is I didn't really know myself, because we often think we know ourselves. We say, oh yeah, I'm quite good at chatting. I'm quite good at communicating. I can get a bit impatient sometimes. I know I can get a bit stressy when I've got a lot on. I would say that's not knowing yourself. I would say that's stating the obvious. Knowing yourself is knowing how you perform well, knowing what you need to put in place to help you function well. I've just moved house with 4 children and work full time. That's quite a lot. I'm not saying I nailed it, but I do know that knowing myself well has and is enabling me to do that without blowing up, because I know what I need to do to restore myself. I know what I need to do to calm myself down, to regulate myself. I know how to prioritize. I drop a lot of balls. I'm not saying I'm smashing it with performance, but knowing yourself means knowing where your overwhelm kicks in and how to resolve it. Knowing yourself well means knowing how you rush into certain decisions or delay decisions, and that will sting you later. And so a big part of my journey from being a stay-at-home mum, vicar's wife, to being a top business tycoon, which actually I would dare argue that I am actually working in great businesses beyond my wildest dreams. How have I done that? I really believe it's because I've changed how I was doing my ordinary, and I borrowed others' extras. And as a result, I've also learned about myself in a deep journey to then navigate those extras effectively. And the journey continues. And that's what I want for you guys in this season, that you will get a hunger, I should say, for knowing yourself more, for understanding yourself more, so that you can be better positioned to maneuver in your ordinary commonplace spaces with some extra dynamic content and insights. So we have got some great people coming up on the podcasts. And as I said before, I'm going to be talking to them about their inflection points, much like mine when I was the vicar's wife and wanted to change. What was that all about, and why and how? I'm going to be talking to other people from their career points of view of where their inflection points were and why, and how they maneuvered out of it. And I really hope you get loads of learnings from it, as have I. The other thing is, every fortnight we will have those pods dropping, but in between we've got a little fun segment called Dolly in my pockets. And I know it's a bit cheesy, but quite a lot of my clients say I'd love to have Dolly in my pocket, although it's a bit embarrassing because I am 6 foot. So you'd have to have a very big pocket to fit me in. But the Dolly in my pocket episodes are going to be chapters pulled from my book with key insights from that, just 7-minuters, to keep you going with like quick, pithy pieces of extra to add into your commonplace ordinary. But if you would like to get in touch to have coaching with me, or for me to come and work with your team or do some strategic work behind the scenes, do reach out. And also I do keynote speaking and speaking at different events, sharing different insights that are relative and contextual to your space. So I would love to hear from you. Do reach out, dolly@dollywaddell.com. But stay tuned for season 4. We are so excited to have you on the journey.